Hello and welcome to the Unconventional Podcast with Grace Hardy. Today we have Vicky Owens on, which is very exciting, so welcome.
Hi Grace, thanks for having me.
It's excited. Okay. Do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
I'm 23 years old. I now have a 6-figure social media agency that I built in just under 2 years, which sort of came about from nowhere. I started it in my bedroom. I started it because I was dealing with awful panic attack. I used to get bullied at school. It wasn't a fun time. And then I just sort of knew that something more exciting was meant for me. And then I've just sort of ended up here. I don't really know how I've ended up here, but I love it. And now I'm just hoping to inspire other people to do things like that and sort of break out of the normal path of what we're supposed to be doing at this age, because it's complicated.
Do you know what? Completely agree. I'm just trying to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were at school, obviously it was a horrific experience.
It was.
I also did not have a very enjoyable experience at school.
So fun.
It was not fun whatsoever. It was horrible and a lot of character building.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you think that sort of led you to do what you do now? Did you always knew that you necessarily didn't want to go to university?
Yeah, I think so. I was not very academic at school at all. I had to have a lot of tutoring, special classes, which I think is just so demeaning to say to people you're in a special class or a special set. So I had to put in a lot of work to see results at school, and even then I would get C's or B's. It was never top of the class. And then I was picked on a lot. I don't really know why. I think maybe because I was tall or because I never fought back at people. I think they knew they could say anything. I would have people literally slam me into walls, literally.
That's horrific.
Someone dumped a yogurt pot on my head.
What?
I don't know why I attracted it. And at the time I think you just sort of laugh it off, but honestly I could do a whole podcast just on that. It was crazy. So I think that if you strip it all back, the deep rooted thing behind all this has been I've always sort of wanted external validation from people, because I never really got that at school. So I think I've always been trying to be look, I can do this, look, I can do that, because I never really got much praise at school. So that's why I don't really agree with the school route and the uni route, because I didn't enjoy it, and I just was I want to start making money. And I think that there's other things out there for people like me. And even now, all my friends that got straight A stars and went to uni, they're all in jobs that they don't enjoy doing. They're all sort of stuck in life and they don't really know what to do. So I think it's really important that we have these sort of conversations to get people to break out from that mold.
I completely agree. All my friends are either at uni or just finished, and they can't find a single grad scheme, because you leave university with the same degree as everyone else. 9 times out of 10 you didn't do a placement year, so you have no work experience. Then you're shoved into the actual world and you can't find a job.
It's scary.
It's very competitive out there.
It is. And there's not much guidance when you come out of school. So I always did really creative things. I did media and English and art and stuff like that. And then I just finished school and wanted to start making money. All my friends went off to uni, so I lost a lot of my friends. And then I think because I was so I had so much trauma happen at school, that it just sort of carried on into the real world. So I did a lot of work in Manchester. I worked at a social media agency for free as a summer scheme. I worked at Hollister. I did a bit of modelling because I'm a tall queen. And then I just started to have these awful blackouts out of nowhere in Manchester. So I'd and I don't know where they came from. I think a lot of it was me being thrown into this big scary world on my own. And I'm also very close to my sister as well. We're attached at the hip. So I think going out and doing things on my own was a shock to my body and my system. And I just started to have, when I remember the first one I had, I was at the top of my stairs at home, and I literally just blacked out and fell down the stairs.
That's
and
so terrifying.
I had my water in my hand and it went everywhere, and I was what? I didn't even know what that was. I was so confused, what had just happened to me. And I was really angry at myself because I had to cancel what I had on during that day, and I was I don't know what that was. And then I just carried on because I was I don't know, was it just a malfunction in my brain? I didn't really know what it was. And then I did some research into it and found out that's what it was. It was panic attacks. And then I had another one when I was on my own in the train station at Manchester, literally just blacked out on the floor while I was ordering hot chocolate at Costa, and the Costa guy was are you okay? And then I was just yeah, I don't know, I was just really embarrassed. And they just started to happen more and more, and I was so afraid of them carrying on like to happen again, that I just like rang up all my jobs and quit. If you've ever experienced it, it's like having a heart attack. Like it's the worst feeling a person can experience. And I was like, I can't leave the house in case that happens. So I just quit everything and just sat at home and didn't do anything.
No, I so get that. I think I suffered from terrible anxiety for about 4 years, which was incredibly debilitating. I couldn't live life. I couldn't do anything. If someone said, oh, can you just pop to the shop? No, that's not going to happen. And I think people that have been through the same thing only understand, because from an external point of view, you're just like, why can't you just pop to the shop? Like it doesn't make any sense. Just like go make some food. And I'd be like, I actually can't do anything. I'm so paralyzed by anxiety that it's just such an awful experience, and it took me so long to get out of it. I personally went to therapy to try figure it out for myself, which was incredibly helpful. And without that, I just don't know how I would have got over the hump of it.
And you lose a lot of your friends as well, because that was like the peak time when everyone was going out partying and clubbing and stuff, and I was like, I can't even like go to the end of my drive without feeling anxious, let alone go out to a club. So I'd lost a lot of friends that was like thinking I was boring or like being dramatic, and I was literally just like on my own, like I just couldn't do anything. And then I tried to apply to some other different places, but then I was like, I'm gonna have to eventually leave the house like to work. I really wanted a job at Pretty Little Thing, and I literally was like, I'm like so big on like manifesting and stuff, so I like would write it in my journal every day, like I've got my job, and I like believed I was gonna get it, and then I didn't get it and I was gutted. But it was really weird, like I still have my journal from like 2 years ago, and I would write down every single night like something big is coming, like I'd write it over and over again, and my mum was like, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know, like I just think like there's something that's going to be right for me. And then I ended up starting by basically like noticing there was loads of, I actually started with photographers, so I noticed that there was a load of photographers that didn't have a good social media presence, or they weren't sure on how to use it properly, and I just sent them all like an email just saying like, hi, can I like help improve your social media for like £100 a month? And then I think I emailed like 50, and 3 of them were like, yeah. And I was like, 300 quid, oh my god, I'm rich. Like I was literally buzzing with it. And then it just snowballed from there. I had to like go into a lot of therapy, and I got put on medication for my panic attack, so they start, and then it literally just like went 0 to 100 in like a year. Like it's been so overwhelming, but really fun.
That's amazing. So when you're setting up your business, obviously you send all these emails, you get a couple of replies, you go, this is sick. How did you start financing your business? Did you reinvest your profits back into your business? Did you use some savings? How did you go about it?
So I actually didn't even know that some people start a business with money behind them. Like I assumed that everyone just starts from zero, but I know a lot of business owners that have had investments, or they've come from like a wealthy background and they're very fortunate that they get that sort of leg up. But I didn't have anything. Like I literally had no investment, no backing, anything like that. I literally, even now, I don't really pay myself much out of what I make. And I just kept like reinvesting it back in. Obviously at the start, like you do need to keep most of it to pay for like your everyday stuff. But I started to buy like courses or like equipment, things like that. I'd say like only in the past year I've had to buy bigger stuff like office space and equipment and things like that, and learning about what you can and can't buy. I got an accountant like a couple months in. I just didn't know anything she was talking about. No one teaches you any of this. Like I didn't even know really what tax was. Like I thought you just got paid and that was it. Like I didn't even know you had to pay like so much of it, you know, like as your tax bill. Like I didn't know about what it means to be self-employed. So I've literally just had to start from scratch and just learn the basics.
I think that's so important to highlight. It should be taught at schools, because like when I started, I only knew about finance because I've worked in finance. But if I hadn't, I'd have no idea. And so just teaching people basics about what it means to be self-employed. You need to register to be self-employed. It doesn't just happen overnight. And that you don't get taxed. You have to pay the tax yourself and calculate it yourself. Whereas if you're in employment, it's all done for you. It's not something you even need to really have a second think about.
Yeah, and it's really scary because if you don't know about it, you can get in big trouble. Like I've had many brown envelopes through the door saying that you've not done this or you've not done that, and I'm like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, because no one like tells you unless you like outwardly reach out to an accountant and ask for help. And I think it can be quite dangerous, like if you're doing the wrong work or you're like not putting the right numbers through your books and things like that. But no one, I don't think people, well, I didn't do it on purpose, you just don't know. It's
what
not
was
like
the
out there.
scariest letter you've ever got? As someone who started my own accountancy business, I know how exciting and challenging it can be. If you're looking to follow a similar path, Informe is here to help. A free website powered by AAT, Informe provides free guidance to empower small businesses businesses to make more informed decisions. Inform Me will help unlock your inspiration and turn your idea into a reality, and navigate the non-stop challenges of running a business from start up to scale up. Find out more at informe.co.uk/unconventional.
When it was like one of my first like tax bills was due or something, and I was like, I don't have the money to pay that. Like, I didn't even know a tax bill was a thing. So I just had to like just find the money and just pay it. But now I'm like, I've learned to have like different savings accounts, and I'm like prepared for it. But I know that like a lot of people dodge it, or a lot of people like don't put things through the books. Like a lot of people don't, you know, do things how they're supposed to. So I've just always been very honest with money, and like everything that I take in, like I make a note of, like I don't slide anything to the side, like, because I think I'm just terrified of getting in trouble. So I'm like, I just want everything done properly.
But you know what? And that's the way it should be. Obviously, I have to say that because I'm an accountant. But it's also what I believe as well, just because they do spot checks. So HMRC will just randomly check a business. You'll get a letter going, we're investigating you. And you'll go, sorry, excuse me? And that's how it happens. So everyone needs to be prepared. And if you're not sure, always ask a professional, your accountant, because it's so important. And for so many different things, there's such niche rules that people don't think about.
Yeah, and even things like this year, like I've got like a team now, like I have to pay my team, and like that's another big weight on my shoulders. Learn how to be a boss has been like probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, is like learning how to manage people, hiring people, firing people. Like it's been so difficult. And I was like, I just wish there was like a manual for like how to do this, because everyone has such different opinions. And I was like, it's so hard because I just want to be myself and be a nice person. But also a lot of people are like, well, you won't get very far as a business owner if you're nice. And I was like,
I don't think that's always true.
Yeah, I was like, I think I will like challenge that a bit. I think you can be nice, but also like setting in place your boundaries, like having people respect you, like having an opinion. So I just make sure now, like with my team, we have like monthly check-ins. I have my own office, so I'm a little bit separated from them. So it's not just like, because when we first started, we were all sat on the same table and it was very close every single day. Because I think as well, like what's been hard, obviously being younger as a boss, like you don't get a lot of respect from people. I don't know if you found that, but like you have to work that little bit harder to sort of prove yourself to people. And even now, like when I go into meetings or like a big event or something, you can tell people like, who's that girl? Like, also
I would also say it's being female and being young. For me personally, especially in finance, there are so many old men, which is great, good for you. But when I go into an event, I'm usually one of the only females and the youngest woman there. Lots of people will ask me if I'm someone's PA or someone's partner, and I go, no, I'm an accountant and I run my own accountancy firm.
That's sick. I
which
love
is
that.
Great to say. It looks really good on paper.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah, exactly. However, people look down on you straight away, and they have that bias as soon as you walk into a room.
Yeah, and I was actually speaking about this to someone the other day. I actually feel like I've had more issues with women than men. Like I've had a few men be like, oh, how's your little business? But I've actually found that women are threatened by other successful women. So like when I've gone into like a workplace or like somewhere a bit more corporate-y to help with their socials, it's like instantly all the women in the office are like, who's this girl? Like this young girl. I've had it a few times. Like one of my very first clients I absolutely loved, and all of the team was so welcome to me. It's like this one woman, like she wouldn't even look me in the eye, and I was like, what? I don't know what I've done.
That's terrible.
But it's just because you're young, like people don't like it and keep it almost a secret what I do now, because people don't understand it. Like sort of sometimes people in my family or like my grandparents like don't really understand what I do. So it's, you've got to work that like extra level to get the recognition from people and like the approval, which is, I think I've sort of just given up with it now. It's like, do you know what? I love what I do. So if other people don't get it, then they don't get it.
For me personally, I get a lot of imposter syndrome, and I get it a lot worse when I do big events. So the other week I went to go speak for the Department of Education, which was an amazing opportunity, and I loved it so much. But I came away with people saying, you're such an inspiration, you're such a role model. And at that point, my imposter syndrome kicked in massively, and I thought, I'm not qualified to talk about this. I'm incredibly qualified to talk about this. It's my whole journey. At what point did you think you've had the worst imposter syndrome?
Oh my God, so many times. Maybe like a couple of weeks ago, I had to do the biggest thing that I've ever done in my career, and it was like speaking in front of like nearly 300 people at this event, and it was just speaking about my journey, like how I've grown on social media. And I like obviously had my anxiety and stuff, and I was just like, I can't do this. Like I remember just lying in bed and I was like, there's no way I can do that. But it's just like a different character comes out of you, and I absolutely loved it. And I got so many people that like recognized me from TikTok, or like they wanted to meet me and ask me questions, and I was actually like, what is going on?
That's amazing for you. Congratulations.
I loved it. Thank you. I loved it. It was like where I felt like my best version of myself. Or even just like sometimes when I speak about what I've done to people and then they're like, well, that's amazing, and I'm like, actually yeah, it is. Because for ages I like had loads of friends that really like dimmed down what I did, or like I'd speak about things and they'd just be like, all right, cool, and then you sort of just assume that it's pretty normal. But then when you speak about what you do to like new people who've never met you, they're like, what, you've done that and you're only 23? You're like, oh yeah, like it's just normal to me. But I think that's why I try and do a bit more like self-reflection now and be like, this is what I've done this month, and like celebrate your wins a bit more. Because I think when you're in a business, you just like go 100 miles an hour and you never actually sit down and go like, I've done this month. Like that's huge.
Yeah, I do weekly updates on my Instagram, mostly
so
just
good.
for myself, not really for anyone else. But
Yeah.
I think also as a business owner, you're constantly moving the goalpost of what it means to be successful.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I started, I was like, I want to match my corporate income. And I've done that now, and I'm not happy, and I still want more. And now I'm constantly moving it, and I don't think in a way I'll ever be satisfied, because I'm such a go-guesser. I just constantly want to improve on myself and my business.
Yeah, it's like an addiction, isn't it?
Is.
It's like, I remember like when I first started out and like my accountant was like, oh, like Vic, you can easily get to like a 5k month. And I was like, 5k month, what? And then I got to it and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, this is crazy. And then I was like, right, now onto the 10k, onto the 20k, onto the, like, you're just constantly moving on to the next thing. And it is like an addiction. And I think for people that don't own a business, they don't get it. Like my friends don't get it. Like my boyfriend doesn't understand what I do. That some people just want like an easy job and an easy life, and they like clock off at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think it's when it's your business, it's literally an addiction, like always constantly checking things. How can I improve things? Like have this huge list of things to do, and you're just always going. Like I can't imagine like not doing anything. Like,
no, honestly neither.
That's like what I'm trying to get at the minute, is like almost get to a place where like I can step away a little bit, like in a few years, like when I want to start a family or like settle down a bit more, like I can have like work for like 2 days or something. But I'm like, I can't imagine doing that, like just sitting and doing nothing.
Neither. I work 24/7 all the time, and I think sometimes that's really important. So for me, I've personally had to make a lot of sacrifices in my business that I don't really sit and think about, because it makes me upset. But there's people I've had to take away from my circle because they're not helping me, or they're being really negative. There's relationships for me personally that have failed because of the business, because I can't spend enough time putting effort into it. What are some of the sacrifices you've made as you've grown your business?
I would say it's been really difficult with relationships, like with friends and like partners and stuff like that, because for me, like it's physically impossible for me to text people throughout the day. Like I'm just always got something to do. So like I never really text my partner or my best friends or anything like that. And like that, it has like been a problem before. Like people have been like, are we okay? Like have we fallen out? Or like sometimes my boyfriend will be like, is everything okay with us? And I'm like, oh my God, everything's fine. I just like, I don't have time to text people back. And it sounds really bad, because it's almost like you're saying you don't have time for them. And I'm like, I do have time for you, but just not right now. Like I've just got so much on my plate. And I think as well, like a big sacrifice made is almost like looking after myself. I really envy people where they're like, I work my own hours and like I can go for a spa day and just switch off while my money rolls in.
Honestly, all those TikToks where everyone's like, Pov, I run my own business, so my time's my own. I'm like, what? What's going on? I was like, I work more hours than I've ever worked in my corporate job. I never switch off. I'm always so close to burnout. I always work so hard. I forget to eat. I forget to drink. I get a headache and go, I haven't drunk water today.
I literally like don't go for a wee all day, because like I haven't even got time to do that. I find social media, like I just don't believe a thing I see on it anymore. And especially with the money side, like I was speaking to my accountant about this, and she like spoke about it, and I was like, what? So like, you know, when you see people where they're like, how I made my first 100k a year or month or whatever, and you're like, wow, that's huge. They could have made the 100k, but their expenses could have been over that.
Massively.
So it's like, it almost doesn't matter what number you're telling people, because half the time, it's not true, or it's like, great, you've made all that money, but like what are your expenses like, or what is it like after tax, or like it doesn't, it really just doesn't matter. I get a lot of like backlash whenever I speak about money on socials, because I'm like, I don't agree with sharing your income on social media, like your exact income, because I think like as much as it's amazing and sometimes you do want to shout about it and be like, I'm so proud of myself, like for people that aren't at that point yet, they do compare themselves and they feel really rubbish about it. Or sometimes it's not true, you're not sharing the full story. Or sometimes I think the way people share it comes across as quite braggy. But I think when you're sharing like brief numbers where you're like, I've reached 6 figures or 7 figures, I think that's amazing. But I just think like, particularly in my space now, it's getting a little bit like a competition almost to see like who can do better. So I just like don't look anymore like at what people are doing, because I just know, like I've seen like firsthand so many times where people are sharing things and then I'll know them on a personal level and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's not real.
Social media sometimes is such a facade, and I think it's so difficult to work out what's real and what's not. If I'm having a really terrible mental health day, I am awful at comparing myself to other people in my industry. I will happily sit on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is probably one of the most toxic social media, much worse than Instagram and TikTok combined. And I will sit there and go, oh my god, everyone is doing all these amazing things. I'm not doing any of that. What's wrong with me? What am I not doing to be there? You
don't share, like, we have times when we gain loads of clients, we have times when we lose clients, but I'll never put on my story like, hi everyone, we lost a client today because we did this, or because they fell out with us or something. You don't share it because it looks really unprofessional. But like, it happens to everyone. Like, everyone loses clients. Everyone has months where you sort of hold your breath a bit and you're like, oh my god, this isn't like what I expected. But no one shares it. And like, I think like I've tried to be like from the start very like open about things. So I remember like I did a post about my anxiety and stuff, and a lot of older people that I knew, like, you know, like mums, dads, grandmas, grandparents, like were very, very much like, oh, I don't know if you should have shared that, Vicky, like it's not very professional, or it's like it makes you seem weak to other people or things like that. But I've actually, like, when I speak to people on like meetings now, a lot of people know me through what I've shared, or they like connect with you a bit more emotionally as a human being, which I love, because I think some people, like, they don't like show their faces on social media and you can't connect with them, which is really important.
That mistake when I first started my social media. I refused to post my face for the first 2 months of my whole social media, which was obviously in retrospect a massive mistake. But at the time, A, I was terrified, and B, I was worried that I wouldn't be taken seriously as a young female accountant. Obviously now I found my niche, which is amazing, which is young creative, so they like that I'm young, and if you have a problem with it, then just don't be my client, which is kind of the mindset I've got, which is so much better. But you've spent not a lot of time building a massive social media following, which has been amazing to watch. How has that contributed to the financial success of your business? Has it brought in loads of clients now?
Yeah, definitely. So I think like that's the best advice I give to people when they're like, how do I grow my business? Like, the answer is always going to be socials, because we're living in a time now where your business can sell out overnight if a video blows up, and not enough people recognize that. And I was actually at a point like a couple months into my business where it just wasn't working, and I was really panicking, and I was like, I think I'm going to have to like give this up. And I just said, I'm going to give it one last push. And I committed to posting reels every single day for 30 days. And in the 30 days, I reached like over 1 million people. My inquiries like skyrocketed. And I was like, wow, like this is like a real thing. This is crazy. So now like I make sure me and my team prioritize our social media, because when we go quiet, the inquiries go quiet. Like it really correlates with each other. And then recently I was like, I want to start some sort of a project to show people that I really know what I'm talking about, because as bad as it sounds, like at this moment in time, people do look at numbers and they do associate how many followers you've got with how successful you are, which 100%. I hate. But like at the end of the day, if someone's looking for a social agency, would they go with someone who's got like 50k followers or someone that's got 50 followers? Like, unfortunately, that's how the world works at the minute. So I was like, I think I need to just step up my brand a bit more. So I was like, I really planned out what I was going to post and how I was going to help people and get sales in. And I set myself a target of getting 10,000 followers in 10 days on TikTok, which I did. And I was literally like, what? And I commit to posting 3 times every single day. I've been doing it for nearly 2 months now, and I'm nearly at 30,000 followers. And you get like your TikTok creator fund, so you get some money through that. You get like brand sponsorships. People have wanted me to speak at events that have found me from TikTok. And I think like it just links so well to your business. Like now when people think of like social media agency, hopefully they just go, oh, Vicky, and then, you know, like they link together. But I think like so many people don't have the drive to commit to posting that many times. Like everyone's like, how did you do that? How did you do that? And I'm like, I had such a strong like end goal that I'm not giving up doing it. Like I'm just continuing to do it. But I sit with like so many people telling them exactly what to post for 30 days. Like, this is exactly what you're doing. It'll work. And then they just go, great. And they do it for like a week and they're like, oh, I've not seen anything yet. And they just give up. Like, I think the reason why like we do well is because we just carry on every single day. Whereas a lot of people, they don't see the results. So they just stop doing it. And it's like, why have you stopped? Keep going.
10,000 followers in 10 days is a huge amount. Like, creds to you.
Thank you.
Pop off.
It's quite scary.
Yeah, but it's amazing. So take it in your stride.
Yeah.
So obviously you post it 3 times a day, but how do you come up with content ideas? Because I speak to so many business owners. They're like, yeah, I'll post on social media. And then usually their first hump is, actually, I have no idea what to post. If you're here because you're interested in a career in finance, there's no better place to turn than AAT. I should know, that's how I started out. Every year, thousands of school leavers, finance professionals, and career changers choose to study AAT qualifications. They come out with a qualification that employers value, increased salary potential, and a wide range of career progression opportunities. Did you know a large number of FTSE 100 CEOs come from an accountancy background? You can study at home or in the classroom. Depending on your circumstances, you may be able to get your studies funded. You can also earn and learn in the workplace as an accounting apprentice. Find out more about careers in finance at aat.org.uk/unconventional.
I don't know, I think like it sounds really annoying, but a lot of it's just my brain just never shuts off. So I have like my notes app on my phone and I'll literally be like in the shower or like falling asleep and I'll just think of things and I'll just write them down. Or if I can't think of anything, I'll just like look at what's going on in my industry right now. Or like a massive way where I get quick wins is looking at like what's trending on Google, what's trending on TikTok, how can I speak about that? And it works like every single time. So like a few weeks ago, like Hailey Bieber was trending and I did a video speaking about her and it got 1 million views, and like I get paid per like every 1,000 views. So I was like, cha-ching, like money in the bank. That's what I try and like preach to people now, is just like jump on what's trending and relevant, show up as like a leader in your industry. Because I think as well, like what's really hard is that not everyone is as confident as we are at like speaking on camera and like speaking to other people. So they think that they can't do it. And I think it helps a lot having that confidence to speak on camera and like having, you know, the ability to like connect with people. But I think if you can't do that, like there is other ways to do it, you know, and it's just like filming some B-roll content and then putting some text over it, or like using like the carousel slideshows on TikTok. Like I think people like make too many excuses where they're like, oh, I can't speak on camera, so I won't do it.
And honestly, I was so shy when I started speaking on camera. It honestly made me want to crawl up inside myself and die. But do you know what? It's when you do it more, that's when you actually gain the confidence for doing it. I look back at my first couple of videos and I just posted them. I was like, look, they're not going to be perfect, but at least something is going out now. And I look back at them, they make me want to cringe.
Oh my God, horrible. So mine.
Awful. And I've improved so much, but it's important just to start somewhere. That's the thing. I remember starting my business with 0 followers on every social media platform. That's the scariest thing, is starting with nothing.
So embarrassing.
So embarrassing, because everyone's like, what's this fake account?
Like,
I'm not gonna follow that.
But then I think like, because I like massively think about, well, I used to think about what other people are thinking, but I think my mindset's really shifted this year, because I was like, okay, so if I think about the people I want to surround myself with, they're all like good people, motivated people who do not speak about other people. So the people that are like, you know, talking negatively about me or making fun of me aren't the people I want to surround myself with. And it's usually people that are just like sat at home in a job they don't enjoy. It's not people that are smashing it at life who are going to try and bring other people down. So now I'm just like, I don't care if like people think that it's cringe or like, oh, you're on TikTok. Like I'm just, I don't really care. Because I think like when your end goal is so clear in your head, you're like, you'll do anything to get it. So like for me, I'm just like, I'm just going to keep going until I get like what I'm going to get. But I think some people that they don't have a strong enough end goal that they can't commit to it. Like they're like, oh, I'd quite like to get 100k on TikTok. I'm like, why? Like, just cool to have it. I'm like, yeah, but why? Like, what's the reason why you want it? Is it like for sales? Is it for visibility? And then once you've got that like so clear in your head, then like work backwards and like plan how many times a day you're going to post and what you're going to talk about. Because it's not luck that like I've ended up doing well on TikTok. Like it's all very strategic, and like I find like psychology so interesting, like the psychology of selling and like marketing and how we all like interact with things on social media at the minute is so interesting. So I just apply it all, but it's like anyone can do it. It's just the blocks that they have in their way.
You've been running your business for nearly 3 years now.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
What are the biggest financial problems you've had so far? Because obviously you started a business because you love what you do, not because you love taxes.
Yeah.
And so obviously you don't know everything. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made along the way?
I think saying yes to everything, because I think when it's your business, and I still do this a bit sometimes now, you do have imposter syndrome where you think one day it's just all going to go. Like you can have an insane month and the first thing I think about is like that could just go next month. I used to like say yes to every inquiry. Like I would ignore red flags that clients would give me on calls, like if they were a bit rude or like had unrealistic expectations. I'd just be like, well, yeah, like it's just money.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, like it'll be fine. So I just took anything on, and like it's great because you get their money. In the long run, it causes stress to the team and like they're getting upset, or there's been like clients that are unhappy. So now I'm just a lot more selective like with who we work with. And I'd say like not having boundaries with clients as well, like because I was saying yes to everything, I was also just like, yeah, I can do that extra for you. Yes, I can work outside of hours. So now like when people join, like we make it really clear like this is what they get and like this is what the expectations are.
I think that's so important, setting boundaries. For me, I went and bought a work phone. For me, that was setting boundaries, because I'd have like, if a TikTok did really well, at 1 a.m, I'd then get emails coming through, submissions off my website, which is amazing. But then I'd be like, let me answer them at 2 a.m. because I'm up and it's in my head and I can't sleep otherwise. And it's just creating those boundaries.
And I'm such a people pleaser as well. So I want everyone to be happy and I don't want anyone to be disappointed. And I do like, I've had to work really hard to not take it personally if someone is unhappy. And like, you actually can't please everyone. Like some people are just difficult. Like I think I've just come to realize that like you can't please everyone and we aren't the right fit for everyone.
Where you are now, you've obviously had to learn tons about finance that you didn't necessarily know before.
Yeah.
What do you think are the 3 things that should be taught in schools?
I think the basics of like tax and VAT should be taught, because even now, like I don't get it. Like my accountant just does it. I don't really understand like how much I should be paying or what. I just like save a certain amount every month. Also business expenses, because I think there's very blurred lines with business expenses. I think people really take the mick with those. Also to do with finance, I think when you start to make money in your business and then you have to spend it, you're like, oh, I don't want to spend it. But that saying of you have to spend money to make money is so true. But yeah, I just think that's like something that should be taught in school, because for me, I don't even remember anyone even mentioning that being self-employed was an option. Like I don't remember it. I don't even remember knowing anyone that was self-employed.
At what point do you think you had your first like pinch me moment when you started your business?
I would say probably when I started to hit bigger figures. Like I was making what some people make in like a year and like a month. Like I was just couldn't even comprehend that. And then I think as well, when people that I went to school with or like that knew of me would like start following me on social media, and I was like, that's really funny, because you never actually spoke a word to me at high school. People like love to watch what you're doing, and a lot of the girls that were like really nasty to me were just like watching what I was doing, following me. Some of them asked if they could work for me, which I was just like, oh, that's funny. So yeah, I'd say that was like a massive pinchy moment, because like the horrible stuff they did to me at school, they just like sort of forgot about, which I think happens to a lot of people, where they're just like the tables like massively turn.
Do you know what? When my exes started texting me being like, I love what you're doing, can you give me some tips and tricks, or can you help me with my tax return? I was like, no. Absolutely not. I was like, I'm actually very booked and busy, so I just don't have time for that.
That's like crazy. And even just like, I still see them like all watching now, and at first I was like, feels really uncomfortable. Like I wanted to like block them all. I was like, I don't want them to see what I'm doing. But then my mum was like, no, just let them watch. Like I think it's like, it's great, like they're just watching you. And also like I've tried to not massively like hold grudges with people, because people do change, like grow up, and like we were all very young and stuff. So I sort of just rise above it now, and I'm just like, I'll be the better person in the situation.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
The high ground. What is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
I wish I didn't care so much about other people's opinions. I'd go out for a meal with my family. I wouldn't even go to the toilet on my own, because I was like, if I stand up, everyone's going to stare at me and think I'm weird, or like I don't want to push past people or fall over. Like I was just like, couldn't do anything on my own. So I think I'd just be like, no one cares what you're doing. Like we've got a very short amount of time here on this planet. Like it really doesn't matter like what's going on with everyone else. Like only just focus on yourself. I think I'd just say like that things are going to get better and there is something better coming. So I think when you're at that age and you're in high school, that's your whole life. You can't see past it and you're like, God, I'm always going to be like this. But it's such a blip. Like it was years ago and I'm like, I don't even remember half the things that happened.
And the last piece of advice I'd like you to give is to business owners getting to the point where they're trying to figure out their finances, but they're a little bit lost. What would you say to them?
I would say like there is people out there, like obviously Grace is there, like if you need a help, like I just think like to just reach out and learn and just get some professional advice and then also just start saving because you make the money and then you spend it. So just start saving, being sensible.
Always say research, like have a Google, have a scroll on TikTok, DM someone asking for help because there's so many people that want to help.
Yeah, your DMs are open, Grace.
My DMs are officially open for anyone looking for an accountant. Where can everyone find you on social media?
So I've got my personal account, which is Vicky.Owens, Vicky. And then the business is Socially Speaking Media. And then we've got Socially Speaking Academy as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Grace.